All right. Good morning, maybe good afternoon. Maybe it's early good morning, depending on where you are in Australia and or New Zealand. It's great to have everybody on the session today. Julian, good to have you partnering with us and us partnering with you again for a conversation. And
Right.
yeah, excited about what we're going to have a chat about today. So listen, just to maybe you want to pre-frame, Julian's just made the move to sunny Queensland from sunny Victoria, which is
Yeah. It's actually has been sunny, I think, the last couple of days. So not entirely wrong as of right now.
no, well, if you're a builder in southeast Queensland, yes, this unseasonal late wet season may have been disrupting your flow. Hopefully you've been able to get some indoor work as well as some outdoor work in between the showers done as well. But we've got a great conversation today, Julian, around attracting quality customers who are invested in investing in the high end and with quality builders as well. And I think we're in an interesting space in the construction industry at the moment, as we were talking about earlier. There's definitely demand for housing, as that's a hot topic of conversation. There's limited supply of quality builders. And I like to, the 80-20 rule plays into account here. I'm going to suggest that people on the call today are in the top 20%, yeah, of the construction industry. And then there's 80% who are looking around for the scraps and trying to fill their schedule. And really, this conversation today is directed at those. We've got a shortage of quality builders. We've got a high demand, but we've also got this, cost of living crisis, as they want to label it, where people are really conscious about where they're spending their money, and are they going to invest now, or are they going to hold off and wait and see what happens? We've just had this thing called an election.
You
Which
know, yeah.
hopefully, yeah, will settle things down a little bit again. Everyone's a little bit edgy. I shouldn't say everyone, but there's plenty of people who always love to see what happens. So, yeah, listen, anything you'd love to share before we kick off?
Yeah, it was good to be on. I mean, we get these kind of topics that people want to learn about. So that's why, we want to partner with people like you, John, because you guys actually work be reluctant to work with partners that don't specialize in trading construction. Can you hear me okay, mate?
You're just a bit glitchy there, so we might do what we talked about
Okay.
earlier and just turn off your
Yeah,
camera.
turn the camera off.
That's
Yeah,
much
sorry,
better.
the hotspot at the moment. The internet hasn't been set up from the move up to Brisbane. We only got here yesterday. So yeah, we would try and work with as much as possible people that actually specialize in trade and construction, because if you work with people in manufacturing and retail and hospitality and trades and construction, you're spread far, far too thin. So like I said, we always try and work with people like Pro Trade because they know what they're talking about. So definitely reach out to them if you haven't got someone that you're getting coaching with and stuff at the moment. They do a great job. And the other thing I was going to say is that to kind of keep in mind with this is that um, and I've worked at Builders Act for almost 7 years, so I speak to builders all the time. I think it's a little bit like, and bear with me in my explanation of this, a little bit like being a singer. The best singers aren't always the people, the best job and the jobs and the best work. It's all about the sales and the marketing and the agent stuff that come with it. And I feel like building is really similar to that. You can build the best home possible, but if you're not getting out there in the right way, and your website and your online presence and how you sell yourself isn't done right, you're never gonna attract those top level clients. I think John's going to go into a lot about that today, about how to get that. So just kind of keep that in mind, that it's not always about like the projects you build, that the sales and marketing is a real big important part. And what we
Mm-hmm.
often find is a lot of people um, spend so much time doing their admin work that they don't have time for all of this stuff. So that's another thing to keep in mind, to allow you to do a lot of stuff that John's going to go through. It's like you do need to free up a lot of time in and around your business.
Yes. Yep. Totally. Totally. So I appreciate that intro there, and yeah, listen, let's dive in because there's plenty to cover off on today, and we do have a special guest joining us a little later on, Hagen from Shawco, who does a lot of work in the high end space, is going to have a little chat about his experience to give some insights on what he's navigating with at the moment and what's working and what maybe isn't working so well at the same time. So, Julian, feel free to jump in at any stage, even though we can't see you. I know you're just there. But
Yeah,
as we said, we've got plenty.
I'll keep an eye on
Yeah,
the chat, John, for questions and stuff.
beautiful, beautiful. That'd be great. So, yes, I'll show how people can integrate and connect with us as well in a minute. But that'd be great, Julian, if you can pass some comments and feedback as we go. Hey, listen, what we're going to cover off on today, and Julian and I were talking about previously how this conversation could be a whole week conversation if we really wanted to dive deep. So we're going to, you know, not give an excuse in advance, but just pre-frame and acknowledge that there's a lot of areas that we could really dive into today. And you know, we'll do a broad overview to give you something to cling on to and take home with you today. And really it's about looking at ways to avoid those frustrating clients. You know, identify the biggest barriers that we have to this profitable work, you know, a simple recipe for building trust quickly with these clients that you want to work with, a process, which is most important, a blueprint for helping you get paid to quote. If that's something that you're not doing right now, I'm going to heavily suggest that that is a great opportunity for you. And that's what we specialize in working with our construction clients on. And also an invitation to get some personal help with us at Pro Trade United and an update on what's happening with the Build Exact space as well. There's a document that I'm going to share with attendees at the end. This is I don't like blueprint's not really a word, but it's 19 pages. And what it really is, it's a process that you can adapt and work with in your company to help you get paid to whether it's quote small renovations, large new builds, whatever it is, you can adapt it and make it work for you. And that was what we'll share in the chat box later on in the session, together with the notes and the slides from today's session as well. As Julian mentioned, he's going to monitor the chat box. What we'd love you to do is get your hands busy right now. You'll see the little chat button there. You can also, you know, pop some emojis in the chat box as well. But I'd love to know, where are you located? Which part of Australia, New Zealand are you at the moment? What's the main business customer that you're looking to connect with? Would be great to see. And as we go through, share some learnings, because when you're typing and you're letting everyone else know what you're learning, it's also reminding yourself of what you're taking home as well. You're also going to get a recording and, as I said, that tool at the very end. So if you haven't worked or heard about Pro Trade United, we've been in this space now coming up 10 years. We recognize that there's a real opportunity for customers to get personalized support around streamlining and stabilizing their business, to scaling and how do you do that profitably. Remember, more work does not always equal more profit. And maybe you're at the end where you want to sell the business, you want to step out and maybe pass on the IP that you've got as well. So that's a little bit about how we're working as well. And as I can see coming through into the chat box, Anthony, thanks, mate, for saying we can't see you, but with this webinar platform, it's really about, you don't have to have your camera on because it's not been highlighted there as well. So sit back and listen. G'day, Deans from Adelaide there, high-end pool construction, beautiful. G'day, Matt from the Barossa, lovely part of the country. Darren from the inner west and eastern suburbs, lovely there. Anthony from Apunga, good to have you on again, mate. Neil's from Sydney, Anthony, Gold Coast there. As you can see, everybody in the chat box is, you know, feel free to post to everyone along the way. So you can tick that little box there. Warwick, we've got Katia there, beautiful. Ken's from New South Wales. Robbie, Pyrenees Building Group, beautiful there. I saw someone from New Zealand. Oh, there we go. Jack from Dunedin, lovely to have you on the call. And Tracy from Napier. Hey, perfect. Thank you. Keep chatting away as we go through. And we have a proven structured process at Pro Trade United, which gives everyone a step-by-step approach to getting the goals and the outcome that they're really looking to accomplish. We've released a book last year, Not Just a Tradie, which is really a great opportunity to not just look at your business, but also who you are and how you can really drive greater outcomes. And it's available on all the platforms if you'd love to have a listen or a read. Build Exact, Julian, you may want to just give everyone a very brief snapshot around the platform for those of you who are, being introduced to it today?
Yeah, John, you can hear me okay?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, hopefully this stays on. So yeah, guys, if you don't know who we are, there'll be a lot of builders that use on here, but estimating and job management software, we're the biggest in the market for smaller resi builders. So really what we're trying to do is to make you more efficient, give back yourself time. And for some people, that's to spend time with family and friends. Some people that's to grow their business and push in a bit more. There's no right or wrong answer for that. Everyone's got different goals, but what we're trying to do is help you become more efficient and give you time back in your day. And some really innovative features coming into the software as well, which we can touch on a bit later on.
Beautiful. Excellent. Thank you. Thanks for that. And, I love being partners with such a professional organization and great product as well. So let's have a quick look. What's changed in the last 5 years? And just listen, pre-framing a little bit. We may go a little bit longer than our 10:45 or our 45 minutes, because that's what we want to give you some great content there. However, let's have a look at what's really happened in the last 5 years. Since COVID came, there's been a huge amount of increased digital use by customers. They know products, they're doing the research, and in some cases, they know just as much about what you do as you do. People want greater transparency. They're really open to virtual consultations. If you're this type of person who loves to drive over face to face to see customers and clients, particularly as high end, perfect to start off with. But you're busy, they're busy. Great way to get skilled up in virtual consultations. People want personalization. They want convenience. They want things quicker, faster, easier, with less hassles. Yeah. And pricing, yes, transparency is certainly important here, but also educating. If you're just giving people prices without educating what value they're going to receive, and then expecting them to make a decision around a $500,000, $1 million plus project, then you're missing something there. Yeah. So they want this interaction with you. So keep that in mind. As we go through, you might want to tap away into the chat box as we're going, because I won't stay with this too long, but I'd love to get an insight about what you're finding most challenging at the moment. For myself and Julian, what had you come on the session? Maybe that's something to consider. Where are the headaches in your business right now? What keeps you up at night? As a business owner now for 32 years, I'm very familiar with that sort of mind chatter at 2 o'clock in the morning that just doesn't stop. It's incessant. Yeah. And where are things not flowing for you like right now? Yeah. So as we keep going, if you could tap away, that'd be great. And keep putting into the chat box what you're experiencing right now in the industry as we go. That'd be great. And I'll check in with Julian as we go to see if there's anything that stands out in particular. So part of this session is we want to avoid going after the scraps. And the key thing to remember is there is always someone who's willing to do it cheaper. Okay, so what we want to do is ensure that we're not in that space. We're not there scrapping over the project where it's a race to the bottom. Yeah, so keep that in mind. Always someone will come in at a lower price. So it's about how do you position yourself as someone where people are prepared to invest in as well. So listen, I've just got a couple of comments there. Mick's got navigating the price shock that clients are seeing. Neil's got there's been a downturn in the fit out industry. Jack's got converting the high potential leads. Love it there. Darren's got client commitment is proving difficult. Yeah, so there's lots of little things that are going on in that space. So let's have a look. You get a chance now. And what I'd love to invite all of you to do is, and part of the purpose of why Pro Trade United exists is to improve the professionalism of the industry from every interaction. And whether it's residential builders, commercial builders, it's fit out, it's fencing, it's pool building, it's electrical, it's plumbing, it's painting, it's plastering, is we can commit together as a group and as an industry to raise the standards. We can possibly let go of the narrative of the dodgy tradie. For the person who just shows up, leaves a mess, doesn't communicate, doesn't show up on time. And you know exactly what I'm talking about here. So we get a chance to disrupt and be part of the leaders, and don't complain, whinge and moan about other people unless you're prepared to do something about it. Because unfortunately, we live in a world where people just do what everybody else is doing. And if you want to target and win the high-end building projects, you've got to be prepared to do things differently. And there is no greatness where it's crowded. So how do we stand out and be unique and be different? And that comes with its challenges on its own, but it also comes with great rewards. What we see is the biggest barrier is two things. Number one is I don't know how to. And then if I don't care enough, I don't go and educate myself on how to, get to that level. Yeah. I don't know. And here's the reality. Not many of us are taught. Most of us have winged our way through life. Yeah. And that's okay. That's how we go about it. We make mistakes. Ideally, we learn. We make more mistakes, we learn. We have a crack at something we've never done before, and we learn. But if you're not clear on how to target and win the high-end building projects, you either go and seek guidance and support and help, or you don't care enough. Now, I'm going to suggest that you guys are on this call because you care and you want to know a little bit more as well. So the gig is you can shift and change anything in your business in 90 days. At Pro Trade United, that's what we are committed to. You can get some quick wins, but you can shift the direction of your business, in fact, any area of your life in 90 days. It's simple, just not easy. So let's have a look at a few things. We need a recipe, we need a process, and there's things that are going to be absolutely critical here in putting involved. So we have ingredients and we have a methodology. Yep. So let's have a look at some of these ingredients as we go through. Now, first and foremost, if you want to win high-end building projects, it's really important that you are clear on who your target customer is. Now, we won't dive too deep on this today, but we talk about the 6 Ps at Pro Trade United. A customer has to be profitable, willing to pay according to terms, that you enjoy working with them, they feel like a partner in your business because they come back to you and refer others. There's a clear pathway to the decision maker, and they love to follow your process. Yeah. Now, everyone knows what the nightmare customer is about. Yeah, but we want to make sure we work with the dream customer. And here's an example, because it's really important to understand that the dream customer and what they're after is different to what a lot of people are trying to sell. A lot of people are trying to sell the end result, which is we're going to do the renovation. We're going to build the house. We're going to take care of the fit out. We're going to install your pool. That's the bigger problem. But the deeper is, can I trust you and your company and your team with absolute certainty to solve my problem? So if you can get this whole process is building trust and certainty, then you're going to find a smoother process to win those higher end projects. So here's an example. The tail end, if you're a residential builder, your ideal customer could be a professional couple with children. They live within 20 kilometers of the office. They have a joint income of over 250,000. They're time poor, want to be guided in the decision-making process, and they desire reliability, open communication, follow up, and they want a company they can trust to do the job right the first time. And what they're thinking, and they might not share it out loud, is if we could just find a builder who we can trust, that communicated professionally, showed up on time, guided us through the process, and really knew what we wanted, that'd be the gig. So when you start to know your customer, you can jump into their shoes. Here's an example. Maybe you've got some referral partners. Again, your ideal referral partner could be an architect or a designer. And I know there's a love-hate relationship between you guys, but let's just, choose the fact that we're going to have a relationship with someone that is going to be great to work with. They've already got a stream of clients. They only design high-end homes and renovations. They desire reliability, professionalism, open communication, follow-up, and want a company they can trust to refer to clients. So again, they're thinking, if I could just find a builder who we can trust to introduce to our clients, as they are an extension of my brand. Yep. So once we get into their headspace, we can start then targeting our communication and our processes. Secondly, you've got to create some great perception. This guy could be the best chippy in the world, the most skilled, most experienced. But if he shows up at mum and dad's place looking like this, the chances are the perception and the reality, there's a gap. And remember, people buy perception. They don't buy reality. They buy what they perceive to be their reality. Yep. So how do we create this world-class perception? Number one, have a process. We'll talk about that. Make sure you've got reviews, you've got your socials taken care of to give a great online perception. You're polite, you're professional, you're prompt. You've got all of the technology and I guess the communications, taken care of. You've got great uniform, you've got signage, you've got collateral, and you've got some electronic tools that you can be providing to people. The other part around that. So once you've got that, we also want to then start thinking about who do we choose? Now, what's your point of difference? So if this guy shows up to Mr. and Mrs. Jones's place, friendly, personable, polite, puts together a price, fantastic. So they get a couple more. They get this guy and then they get this guy. Now, again, they're all personal, professional, show up, provide a price. So unless there's a tangible difference, physically and emotionally, who are they going to choose? And if there's no physical, tangible difference, we know what they're going to choose. They're going to choose the person who looks like they're going to match their budget the best. Now, that's not where you want to be playing. You don't want to be the cheapest. Okay. And it's really important that you then start looking at ways to create what we call a point of difference. And part of that is trust. So you've got to do what you said you're going to do. Okay. This might seem like it's, 101, but you think about how many people don't do this. How do you position yourself as the expert, the specialist, educate, help versus hassle? And you've got to have some case studies and examples, of what's going on. Because otherwise you blend into the rest. You're the sea of sameness. So that point of difference is going to be super important. How do you become a specialist versus a generalist? And that's the key. So here we have two different types of builders. Builder A, they say, hey, listen, there's no job too big or too small. We do anything and everything. We do free quotes. We've got quality workmanship, friendly staff, and competitive pricing. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, same. But Builder B says, you know what? We only specialize in large renovations and new builds. Yeah, we don't do the decks. We don't do the kitchens. We don't do the back sheds. And that's okay because you'll be specialists in that area. We're an award-winning master builder. We have over 30 five-star reviews. We have a thorough process that we use with each client where it's customized, we're transparent, and we have upfront pricing. We monitor your project with our client web portal, and you can have a look how things are going 24/7. We have a weekly site meeting with you. Our work is guaranteed for X number of years, whatever that can be for you. We only use hand-picked professional trades and contractors, and we take photos and provide film footage so you can get a visual storyboard to have a look at the journey that we've gone on with your renovation or your new build. Yeah. So when you start articulating these things up front, already you've got a point of difference. Already you're standing out from the crowd. This is Ben. He's one of our clients, and he's based in Cronulla in south of Sydney. Now, specialist-wise, the great thing about Ben is they only do two things. They do the really complicated renovations and stairwells because these houses where they work are all on the top of the cliffs overlooking the ocean. He's become a specialist in that area, and he's now venturing into specialist tiny homes as well. So they've definitely looked at ways to position themselves differently. And the great thing about Ben and his team is they have a process and they talk about the process. And that's really key. Because when you have a point of difference, when you have a process, when you build trust and certainty quickly, what it does is separates you from the 80%. It excites potential strategic partners. And these are either other. These architects, designers, engineers, could be other trades. It could be other builders who are in your space, but don't specialize in what you do. They have their own niche. And you build a great reputation for repeat business and referrals as we go. So listen, as I said, we're speed dating at the moment with some of this content, but I'm wanting to give you at least something to jump onto as well.
Hey,
So we've
John,
got, yeah.
before you jump into this slide, mate, but one of the things I always want to say to people about this, and I don't think people often realize this, but when you say it does a lot of sense, almost every business in the world, the sales process part of that business is the nicest that business is ever going to be to you. And it's true in 99% of cases. It's, you try and call a bank, you get straight through. You try and call Telstra to try and sign up for a new mobile phone plan, you get straight through. So that's the nicest that business is generally, for most businesses, is ever going to be to you. If you are in a position where you're answering a phone and you're on site and you can barely talk and it's a bit of a hard to hear you, and in the same way, I'll get you the quote in 5 days and it takes 8 days. All of that stuff just makes you feel if they're like this when they want my money, what are they going to be like when they have my money? And for most people, a house, unless you're buying extremely rich, extremely expensive cars, and all power to you. Most people, the house is going to be the most expensive thing you're ever going to have, other than a kid probably as well. Um, so that is a really important thing to set the tone of every interaction you have with the customer, whether that's even if it's not you personally, but it's through your website, the contact us form, who the email goes to, the responses, all of that stuff plays into a huge role of how that customer perceives you as a business. So if they're trying to call you 4 or 5 times and there's no answer, yeah, that's not a good sign either, because I'm like, now that they want 600 grand of my money, like what are they going to be like when they have that money? I'm not saying builders are like this in terms of that they're going to run out of money or anything, but it's just that perception of I'm trying to get in touch with you when I'm trying to buy something off you, and it's really hard then. So I've seen like some builders will even have like an answering service where it'll just go straight from an answering service. They'll write a note and they'll send it to the builder. Sometimes even that, if you're really busy, is a good thing to maybe do. That's an important part of not just getting through to someone's voicemail left, front, center.
Yeah. I listen, those such simple things that are
Yeah,
really quite easy to set up. Like, yeah, listen, if you're not able to answer the phone, have a professional answering service. At least answer the phone
yeah.
on your behalf, take the details down, send it through as an email. You know, I've had situations before where I've rung a trade. They've been on site. You hear
Oh,
the saw working in the background. People are yelling, screaming, and they go, "Listen, mate, can you just send me an email and listen with the details of what you're looking for, and I'll give you a call back tomorrow." Okay, you've got to be kidding me. Seriously,
yeah.
you know, think about that and how that's making it so hard for me to want to spend money with you versus how do I make it easy for people to spend money?
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
had it almost with every single trade that I've worked with. I found it challenging.
Mm,
Like following up and checking in and things like that. And it's like for me, the cost isn't really an issue for like especially for smaller jobs. Like it's like someone's charging 500 or 800 doesn't really. I'm not shopping around. I've come to a person and it's just I want that level of service. Obviously, home building is completely and bigger renos is a completely different scale. But if you're trying to target those customers and that's the service they're being met, like that's going to have a negative impact. Sorry to cut
yeah.
you off, John, but I think it's a really important one that sometimes is often missed. That the nicest
Well,
it's ever going to be is the sales process
yeah.
generally.
Well, those simple things we talked about, Julian, that so far that I know we've glossed over, but if you're not prepared to put those in place to start off with, then don't ever expect to win the projects at the higher level. Yeah. You know,
Yeah,
particularly if that's where you want to move towards. If you're already there right now, fantastic. But if you want to move into that space, you've got to get the foundations in place first. You know, and I think about hospitality. You go to a five-star hotel, and ideally there's a concierge there who's there to look after you, you know, and take care and make it easy and make your stay really pleasant. You know, that's what we need to be for our clients. We need to be like the concierge. We want to hold their hand through the process, particularly if they've never built before, never renovated. This is their first time. And okay, what are you going to do to have them feel safe about every decision they're going to make financially? So
yeah,
beautiful, beautiful. I
absolutely.
love, yeah. Um, I love your little comment there. Who wears short shorts? Well, maybe in North Queensland you might wear short shorts. Um, so let's have a look at our method. And again, it doesn't matter whether here we've got 6 steps, it's 8 steps, it's 10 steps, it's 12 steps. This is a broad overview as we go. What's most important is the time and energy that you spend, and particularly in this early phase. Yeah. We talk about this initial connection. We talk about this qualification, and qualification is making sure the client's a right fit for you and you're a right fit for them. And that's really the essence of winning these high projects. You've got to know right up front. You don't want to get to presenting the price, you know, and handling follow-ups and, you know, concerns without knowing you're dealing with the best possible customer right now. And so one of the things that, you know, we do in this early stage is we also cut out the time wasters. And that's really the gig. How do I get rid of the non-preferred drama-filled challenges with customers that aren't the right fit? and handle any potential holdups down the track. So one of the things that's really important is have this process in place. And, you need to upfront say, hey, listen, part of our process is A, B, and C. And you might have two phases of this qualification process, and one of them might be just some initial questions to start off with. Yeah. And then you want to go into some deeper dives. I'm a big fan of saying, hey, listen, just wanting to let you know we are at capacity, or we're nearly at capacity or moving towards capacity. Because when you hear that word capacity, the mind, what that means is these guys have got a full schedule, which means if they've got a full schedule, they're probably pretty good at what they do. And if they're good at what they do, then I'd love to explore doing some work with them. Yeah. We're a big fan at learning how to charge for the consulting or the expertise in quoting a project. Free quotes, particularly for high-end work, okay, are gone and done, because you know what happens when you spend days, if not sometimes weeks, putting together, high quality quotations, and then you send it through to the customer and you hear nothing. There's 2 weeks of your life that have gone. Yeah. We don't want that anymore. You want people right up front who are vested in you. And I talk about the process that we went through when we built here. We went through that exact process with our builder. And I look back, and it's one thing I really recommend all clients or people going to build a home now is they invest in the process right up front. And you also want to mention that, hey, listen, out of interest, we're not the cheapest. So if you are looking for multiple quotes, and the cheapest price, we're probably not the right fit for you. And you don't come from a place of arrogance. You come from a place of confidence and knowing who you are as the business as well. Now, when you think about charging for quotes, the number one thing that we support clients with first and foremost is the belief that they have around the value that they provide. I couldn't possibly charge someone for putting together a price. Well, you can, but you're choosing not to. And so a lot of the time it's that personal internal growth that needs to happen. And when people break through that barrier and there is no resistance, people go, wow, I could have done this 3 years ago. Yeah. So I won't run through each of these steps here, but this is what you're going to get in the document. And this is a 12-step process that basically runs through from an initial inquiry where you discover a bit about the project, explain your process, right through to scheduling a possible in-person meeting and maybe requesting some further information like a design brief. You've got some follow-up templates there. You have an in-person meeting. You've got a preliminary agreement that's taken care of. Then there's an initial invoice right through to the proposal and quote being produced, in-person proposal and costing presented, follow-ups and adjustments are made where required, and then we move forward from there. So that's the overview of the recipe, the 19-page document that I'm going to put in the chat box at the end. We'll run through that in a lot more detail. And again, working with you side by side to help you put that in place, can pay dividends almost immediately as well. What's also really important is we have checklists, we have templates, so you can repeat this on and off. And what's most important is that you practice. You don't want to wing it on clients. You don't want to practice these conversations on clients. You want to make sure that you've got all of these things in place beforehand. And once you've got this process in place, it's something that can be repeated over and over and tweaked and over again. So listen, that's a little bit about some things to consider. And I'll just take myself off share here about what we can do to work towards winning these high margin projects and high-end customers. And part of that is, so what I'd like you to do before I introduce Hagen for a bit of a chat here is type into the chat box, what's been valuable for you? What's one thing? It's been a bit like drinking from a fire hydrant. I've been going at 1,000,000 miles an hour. But what's one thing that you go, you know what? That's one thing I could consider. That's one thing I'm not doing or haven't got in place that I feel could be valuable. If you're not charging for your expertise and the value that you can offer in educating and supporting clients to make a great buying decision, okay, we've got to start supporting you in that space. And so depending on the project, we've got clients that we're working with who are charging anywhere from $900 to $9,000 for that initial process. So again, what you're doing is you're getting remunerated for your expertise, your time and your energy and your ability to help the client make some great buying decisions. So what's in there? So Ken's got to having a personalized answering service when I can't take calls. Bingo. Costs like $20 a week. What value is that? Perception. People always buy the perception, and people's perception is their reality. It may not be the facts, but it could be the reality as well, their own personal reality. So keep typing away as we go. Transparency and educating is a big key. What we're doing in all of this, guys, is managing expectations right from the very start. How do I help the customer understand what's going to happen and how we're going to manage the whole relationship and expectations as we go? So thanks, Luke. Thanks, Darren.
I'm
Thanks,
glad that
Ken.
personalized answering call thing is getting a bit of love there, John, because some of us say these things and I'm like, I wonder how this is going to be perceived on the call, but yeah.
Oh, it's a no-brainer. Absolute no-brainer. Yeah.
Yeah, do you know where that came from? I used to work with MYOB and used to work with accountants and bookkeepers a lot. And you
Mm.
call some of these sort of sole traders or one-man band kind of accountants, bookkeepers, and so many of them had answering services. Because it was putting the onus on the answering service to take the details down and then provide the details, like rather than saying, "Hey, can you send me an email because I'm on a roof?"
Oh, yeah. And hey, listen, until you get that set up in your business, if you don't have a personalized voicemail that encourages people to leave a message, then you can do that as soon as we finish this call. You can jump on, you can say, hi, thanks so much for calling XYZ Business. I'm currently with a client or out on site. Love to support or help and chat at some stage. Please leave your details and I will get back to you within the next 12 hours, 24 hours. Yeah, positive, professional, and encourages people to want to communicate with you. I mean, how many times now do you ring this and people don't even have a voicemail, or it says voicemail is full, or leave a 10-second voicemail after the beep, and it's not even personalized. If you want to sell $1 million plus projects, get the little things taken care of right up front. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing what's been valuable for you. And listen, we've got Hagen to join us right now. So I'm going to invite Hagen into the webinar. There we are. Hello, mate.
Hi, John. How you doing?
Yeah, great.
Yeah, good.
Hi, Julian.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us today. Just to share a little bit about your journey and your experience, particularly in this space as well. I've got a little slide out there with a good looking shot of yourself and a few of your projects, but I might sort of, stop that there and love for you to share a little bit about, your company and the type of work that you're working on right now.
Yeah, so thanks, John. For us, look, we've been around about 15 years now. We're in the domestic residential market in Melbourne. So we deal with custom high-end homes, extension renovations that are quite thorough, new builds, knockdown rebuilds, that sort of thing. So our main market is really sort of families who are looking to upsize or rebuild, has sort of where we've really put our niche in.
Yeah, beautiful. And listen, has it always been like that? Or did you, start off being all things to everyone and saying yes to anyone who came along? Or did you specifically go, no, that's where I want to head?
Oh, look, I think like everyone, I started off in carpentry. I'm a carpenter who's become a builder. Obviously, early days, yes, we did it. We did decks, we did everything. We did the small jobs and worked our way there. We found what I liked doing, who I liked dealing with, and then after a bit more work, really analyse what jobs were profitable for us and where we wanted to head. So yes, it's been a progression throughout the years, but over the last probably 5 years now, we've really sort of targeted where we're going for and what we want to do. And we're at a stage now where we only do larger jobs. We will refer on smaller jobs, be that a bathroom, be that a deck, be that even a kitchen, to somebody else and really focus on what we want to be aiming for.
So if we could ask, what does the dream customer look and feel like? What's that for you?
Oh, look, dream customer is, for me, someone who I can communicate with clearly throughout the whole job. We want to have a good relationship as much as they want to have a good relationship with us as well. They clearly obviously want them to be paying on time too. We want them to be organised, so understanding what they want without making too many changes on the go or having to be pushed to make decisions and create a stressful environment. So there's a couple of processes we help them with for that, just to try and take the stress out of a build, because no matter how well it is, some clients still get stressed about the process and decision making that's thrown on them. So that's part of it. But
Yeah.
for us, yeah, as I said, it's really about relationships. And I'm a big believer in that we always put our best foot forward for every job and every client, regardless of whether they're difficult to deal with or not. Because that's what's left in clients' mouths at the end of the job. They want to know and say, yep, they were fantastic to work with. They did everything we asked for, and they'll keep continuing to get us work.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. What is one or two of the challenges you've had along the way? Because it's never a linear path, is it? What have been your, I mean, I know from working with you for the last 2 or 3 years personally, but maybe share with the crew.
Yeah, definitely. So, obviously, I think like any trade or building business, COVID really hit us for six. It was a massive learning curve. No one knew how long it was going for. And being based in Vic for us, look, we thought it was a silver lining at the time. We had plenty of work. We had some fantastic projects, and we weren't shut down. But it was still a very, very challenging time to get through it. And my goal was always to survive it and get through COVID and come out the other side. And I think two of those things in saying that, John, is our biggest wins out of COVID was that I look back now and it's the best learning curve we could have ever had. It was a real kick up the bum to say, okay, these are the weaknesses in our business and this is what we need to do better. And this is how we avoid anything getting hard in the future. So two of the things we did, we obviously joined Build Exact. So getting our background all set up, we wanted to make sure our quoting process and pricing was all 100%. And another major one was obviously joining ProTrade and just to really get the foundations of the business rock solid, because you need that right to be able to build.
Yeah. Oh, lovely. Thanks for sharing that. And, listen, if you're still in business after, COVID, it's kudos to anyone as well, because it was certainly did change the landscape in a lot of ways. Hagen, would you mind just sharing a little bit about, your process now around getting, inviting people to pay you for your expertise and to put together your pricing? Because I know that's been a shift for you over the last few years. And again, it's not an easy transition, particularly if you've never done it before. But would you mind just sharing with the guys what that looks like now?
Yeah, definitely. So obviously we did it the old school way. We used to use Excel. We used to do it that way. We used to make up our own quote template and type it up for every custom job. It was slow and tedious. They presented quite basically. So it wasn't really the image we wanted to present when we were doing jobs. As a lot of you know, quoting on big high-end projects is a huge task, especially if you want to be accurate for your clients. So one of the biggest things we've really put into this is pushing to people that we want to be super accurate on their jobs. We want them to be able to rely on our budget and our quote to be saying, this is what it's going to be. You don't need the surprises of another 15, 20 or 50 grand coming into your project, because we've already factored in all these things. We've looked at the details. We've gone to another level to do it. So in doing that, though, we've brought in a paid quote system. So we have 2 stages for our quotes. We have a preliminary quote stage. So a lot of people will come to you with maybe a concept set of drawings or just an initial plan, no engineering, no energy reports, anything else. They want to know where their project's sitting. They don't want to go through too much. They want to be able to proceed with confidence to say, all right, yep, okay, that's around about 600,000 where we're at. That roughly fits our budget. Now we can go get our engineering, our energy report, or make any necessary changes maybe to fit their budget. So that's sort of our first stage we go through, which is called a preliminary quote. Then we stay in touch with them and get to a final quote stage. Once we've got our full building package to work off, the final quote stage goes into full detail. This is when we're going suppliers, subby quotes. We write up a full detailed specifications for the job. Because obviously architect jobs will have a lot of that, but we will muck around and do our own in conjunction with it. Other people who just come through and draftsman's plans don't have a specifications list. So we write up a full detailed specifications document for them as well. That way they have everything laid out. And our biggest thing is that we're then ironing out any of those details or issues that they might have before we've got to the build. Hopefully we can say, all right, have you thought about how we're detailing this? Is this cladding going to work in this way? We can hopefully get all that ironed out so that we're not getting mid-job and going, hey guys, this was never accounted for and now we've got to charge you extra to go and do it this way.
Yeah.
So a final quote stage gets them to a really full detailed quote, locked in prices from all the trades, a full specifications document, and a draft version of the contract. So at that stage, they are basically ready to sign on the dotted line if they're agreeing to it.
Yeah.
And to give you some feedback on sort of results so far, we've been doing paid quotes for coming on 3 years now. It's amazing how much people have just accepted it as the norm. Our success rate on quotes, we've had about 80% of people say yes to a preliminary quote without blinking an eye, which has been fantastic. So very few kickbacks at all. Our overall conversion rate from a preliminary to a final to actually having the project is up to 50%. And for those clients who engage us for a final quote, we're converting about 90% of them.
Yeah, wow.
By a final quote stage, people have basically decided we want to use Shawco. We like the process. This is where we want to go. Let's finalise it all and get it ready. We're really working in conjunction with the clients, having meetings, working all those details out. So they've basically engaged us really.
That's beautiful. And you know what conversion rate that is. And I think about that guys on the call who would love some conversion rates and knowing that you're actually getting paid to go through that journey as well. A couple of questions that come up, Luke, Hagen, and just don't know if you've, from Luke, that's where I got confused there. Do you mind sharing what range that you might charge clients for? What's the price range that you've got? And do you charge for a preliminary quote?
Yes. So Luke, to answer your question, definitely. Everything we do takes a lot of time. Even a preliminary quote will take me to do it properly and set it out and customize it for a client. It would be still close to a day by the time you've done the quote in Build Exact, uploaded everything ready to go, and then written them a cover letter and everything that goes with it. So you want to account for that 8 hours of your day that you've gone and spent on their job to start with. At the moment, so we're 600 plus GST to do a preliminary quote. So it's not ridiculous, but it's enough to cover some time. We're not here to make money out of doing this. We're here just to make sure that the client isn't just looking for the cheapest price and actually genuinely does want to start using us. That's sort of the process. From there, a final quote depends on what sort of plans and what sort of project it is. Drafts and plans versus architectural plans. I'm sure you'll all know that there's a lot more involved in architectural, but normally we're about 2.5 for a final, up to about 3.5 if it's architectural.
Yeah.
Beautiful. One of the things that we do though is we will reimburse all those quote fees to the client should they go ahead with us. So it's about paying for our time if they decide not to use us. At least our time is covered. But the real selling point of all of this with paid quotes, they win. They're the ones who win because we've put our time in, we've put our expertise in, and at the end of the day, how many builders will come in and go, oh, gee, I forgot this retaining wall, I forgot there was steel in this, or I forgot something else, and look, it's going to be an extra 8 or 9 grand here, and it's going to be another 3 or 4 here. The client gets these surprises. 20 grand is gone in a heartbeat on a big project. We're here to make sure that doesn't happen.
Yeah. I think the way you position that is so important, that educating part. This is our process and this is why it is what it is. And this is what you can expect. And I just love that because Tracy's asked a question, interested to know how you get on quoting against other builders. Our market's competitive and clients won't pay for preliminary quotes when they're getting 3 different quotes. So 2 things there. What I love about what Hagen said is he also communicates that if you choose to go ahead with us, with the build, that comes off the initial deposit. So that's almost like a guarantee. If I work with you, really that's all included in the bigger picture. And I'm going to suggest, Tracy, that, you know, if they're getting 3 different quotes, what they're looking for is the cheapest, yeah? And you don't want to be playing in that space. And possibly right up front, if people aren't prepared to invest in that, what Hagen charges $695 for a preliminary, then they're not going to be the right fit for you moving forward. Yeah. And it's not just bang, hey, this is what we charge. You're positioning it and educating what people are going to receive from that. So Hagen, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're always positioning the value and the return on that.
Oh, well and truly, that's right. And I think there's enough examples out there of people, their network that they obviously talk to and amongst their friends and family who have had that builder before, who have done those bad calls or had those surprises on them and left a bad taste in their mouth. A lot of people are aware of that. The other thing is COVID probably educated people in a good way. They know if the builder's not set up right, if you're not professional enough, there's a chance that you're not going to be there at the end of the build. They know that that can happen. They want a professionally run company who's going to look after them and give them that security and peace of mind that their project's going to be completed and completed to the standard that they want as well. So I think the biggest thing that people look for, though, is no surprises in the price. They don't want to be going as a mum and dad coming in and saying, great, we've got 750,000 on this project. This is pushing us. We've done everything we can. We really don't need a surprise coming into this build. It allows us to spend that time and make sure that we're positioning that in the right thing. And if the build comes in at 780 to start with, then they've got time to go back through their drafts person and amend the plans or take out some of the finished quality or something to adjust it to fit them. It's not about finding a surprise down the track.
And Hagen, can I just jump in there? So my internet's going a bit fuzzy, so apologies if I'm cutting out. You've talked a lot about some of the processes that you go through to secure the client, doing the quote, all that kind of stuff. And I think most people understand they need processes in their business. I think where a lot of people struggle is getting to those processes and actually staying disciplined on them. And maybe we'll stay away from the Build Exact efficiency stuff, because I don't want you to I don't want it to seem like I'm trying to sell the Build Exact platform. But for you personally, how do you manage to stay disciplined of following the exact process of what you set out? Because I think sometimes that's where people struggle a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. So for us, we've created a process document to start with. So any new inquiry we've got, they will obviously will have a phone conversation or a meeting or something just to at least engage us, meet each other, have a chat about what they're wanting. But then we'll guide them through our process document. And it outlines how we quote, sort of the time frames involved on that as well, because a lot of people come into this not understanding that from a preliminary quote to actually starting the job could easily be 9 or 12 months. So it's setting people's expectations the whole way through of what they're in for, how long these stages might take. And that way it's been transparent the whole way through. So Julian, for you as well, obviously in Build Exact, I think one of the things we love to do as well is we are a transparent builder. We want to be open with people. We want to be able to communicate good, bad, or indifferent from the quoting stage through to into the build stage as well. People want to know and that there's honesty there and there's trust, and that creates it all. So Build Exact for a start it lays it all out for us. We have a fully detailed quote. We obviously can tailor it to suit what we want to be telling clients and how we do it, but we do it so that it's mapped out the whole way through, so people can understand, oh, hang on, there's a lot of money in our footings and foundations here, so okay, that's how this price gets to where it is. Or where they can just understand there's a lot of builders that still do labor and materials. Here it is 650,000, and people don't understand where that's come from. So I think in having Build Exact set out the template in a professional style, map it all out and show people what's involved, they understand the amount of work that's in there and maybe where their costs are really sort of coming from.
Yeah, perfect. And I think Luke was sort of talking there about the your average variation creep and extreme. You'd imagine yours is pretty low, and I'd imagine maybe that's something that you probably mentioned to a client where you go, I'm not going to add all these other things on that I'm not in the quote because we've done a proper check of absolutely everything that you need and what you want.
Yeah, correct. That's right. And I just saw one of the questions there as well about margin too. And I think Build Exact in doing that, no, we don't share margin with clients, obviously. But Build Exact will push that margin throughout the whole job. So you can make it share that margin over every trade. So we're not here to price beat. I'm not here to say, all right, our electricians coming in at 28,000, go and shop around and find an electrician and see what you can find for price. That's definitely not what we're trying to do at all. We're keeping it generic, but it's giving them an indication of where costs are. And when it comes to actually signing off on the job, they're not signing off on individual trade costs. The only costs that we will separate, we will create as a prime cost or provisional sum. And that's clearly mapped out through the build exact costing as well. And obviously through how we do the final contract and specifications as well. So it keeps it very separate. People aren't trying to pinpoint you to a cost throughout the job.
Beautiful. Listen, thanks, Julian. A great question, and mindful of our time and also our guests as well. Hagen, listen, just wanting to share, I'm sure you won't mind if people wanted to reach out to you and connect and have a chat. I know you're very open in our pro trade community with your experience and what you're doing as well. Would it be okay if people wanted to jump onto your website, connect with you personally and ask a few questions? Because I think collaboration and supporting each other is such a crucial, an essential thing in our world today versus, this, no, he's a competitor or he's just down the road, because, hey, the reality is you only need X number of projects to fill your calendar, and there's plenty of people out there who want to also build. Would that be okay?
Oh, of course it is. That's fine. Look, I genuinely believe there's plenty of work out there for all of us. I think there's plenty of building out there. I think this is a real change in the industry from 1990s and 2000s and free quotes and everything else that's coming. This is a real shift. And I think if we're all shifting together, we're creating that new norm. We're setting that standard for what clients are going to have. We're not wasting our time in the meantime. So we're becoming more professional, which is what we need to be. More than happy if people want to reach out. I'll throw my email in the chat. And that way, if you've got any questions, just send it through.
Oh, thank you so much. That's been really great. So, listen, everybody give a virtual applause to Hagen for joining us today. That's fantastic. Hey, listen, team, just to wrap up, because I do want to share these documents in the chat box as we finish up. Listen, a lot of people, as we know, are interested in finding out a little bit more. There's plenty of hand claps and blue hearts and red hearts there, Hagen. What we wanted to do is give everyone on the call a couple of opportunities. Number one would be for people who would love to find out a little bit more about how we can support them in their journey and particularly learn about the processes that we've been talking about today. We'd love to give everybody the opportunity to sit down with one of our team and have a business performance session. And that's about getting clarity about where you'd love to go. We have a diagnostic tool that we work with to get the current reality and then make some recommendations. And if it's around getting paid to quote, how to put that into place and move forward with some quick wins as well. So if that's something that you're in for, what we'd love to do is just, if I can introduce, we have a little opportunity here to get a personalized follow-up with one of the team. So listen, I'm just going to hold this up here for about 30 seconds. If it's a yes to find out a bit more, please tick yes. If you're unsure and want a bit more information, please also tick unsure. If it's a no thanks and you're totally cool, that's beautiful as well. So that's the first opportunity that we've got. And again, there's no obligation, and it's a great chance to just even unpack where things are at with your own business and what you'd like to work forward with as well. Whilst that's up there, you also may want to add in what's most valuable for the session today, what your key take home is, what's something that you'd really like to work on moving forward, and what's your key action from there. So I'll just hold that up there for about another 5, 4, 3, and 2, and 1. Beautiful. As that comes through, there's a few more there. But also, Julian, what I'd love you to share with the guys is what's the opportunity with some of the exciting things happening at Build Exact at the moment?
Yes, there's a huge AI push happening inside the software at the moment. You guys might have seen some of the features already released. If not, go into the sort of preview features section. You can turn those on. Selections, like proper selections, has just been released in that preview section. I'm not sure if you've even got a chance to have a look at that, Hagen, but yeah, it's a full selections module. But as we put more and more features into the software, kind of understand that some of those features make things easier, but some of the things you just have to learn a bit more, and it takes a little bit of time to learn a new feature. What we want to really make sure is that people that get the training when they need. I'm going to be in Brisbane Master Builders event, and every single event I go to, someone is always there going, I've been waiting to see you for like a month. Can you help me with this thing? And what I want to try and stress to people is book in training session as soon as you need. You don't need to come in and wait. And I get that people want to come and speak to me because they think I know everything in the software. Not true. But people come and speak to me and they want some help and support around things, and I completely get it. But try and make use of the online stuff where it's available. There's only one of me generally that does a lot of these events for the industry partners in the business. So just pop in there that if you do need some of that help, and we can put you in touch with someone in our team. But if you ever outside the software, I'll pull out a little chat box, and from there you can actually book a session in. Try and do it a little bit in advance, because sometimes our training does get some video off. I think my audio is a bit screwed up there. Sometimes those training sessions do get booked out, so just get in advance, and just even if you're not sure if you're doing things 100% correctly, or there might be new ways of doing things, just book in a session or send a little support ticket through on the chat, and just ask for some tips and tricks. Like I had a builder that was, I think, using us for about 7 years, and I was at an event about a year ago. You guys do now? And I was like, we've had it for like 4 years. And she had no idea. So just little things like that, little features that people just, because you get so lost in this kind of workflow in the software that you do things exactly the same way, and you don't see the things you're not looking for. So if you need some help, fill that out. I think most people have done it now anyway, but we'll pass that on to the team.
Yeah, beautiful. Excellent. Thank you. Thanks for that, Julian. And listen, I've popped into the chat box, guys. A couple of documents there. One's the slides from today, and also the how to get paid to quote process as well. So feel free to download those, use those as you will. And listen, just to wrap everything up, Hagen, thank you so much for joining and sharing today. So insightful, and just love what you're doing in that space. It's inspirational, and it's really atypical of a journey of someone who's ready to keep growing and evolving as well. Julian, thanks for opportunity to chat with you today, and I know that Brisbane Internet will get sorted as soon as whoever is taking care of that gets around to that as well. And to everybody on the call, thanks for contributing, for sharing, for typing away, and being involved in just raising the standards of the organisations and the construction industry, full stop, wherever you are in Australia and New Zealand. Thank you for leading the way, being part of that top 20%. We're really up for transforming an industry which hasn't had the best of reputations over the last, how many decades as well. So thanks so much. We're out of time. Look forward to connecting with you in person at some stage if the opportunity arises. Hagen, thank you, mate. We'll talk to you really soon. In fact, I'll be seeing you next week in person. Julian, thank you so much again, mate. And we'll talk to everybody else at some stage soon.
Thanks, John. Thanks, Hagen. Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
Thank you.